These are all the parts that you get in the Movo iVlog4 kit. It's advertised for $199 US. And this is the price of the individual parts listed on most retail sites, including Movo's official website, $289.70 US. Now, as you can see, there's a 30% saving purchasing the gear in a kit. But do you need all this gear? And what's the quality like? Well, stick around and I'll step you through each of the parts and give you my opinion on how they perform. That'll give you a better idea of whether purchasing the kit is for you. The compact tripod is one of the best I've seen for a number of reasons. Mostly made of aluminium with the addition of some non-slip materials, it feels really robust. The adjustable extension tube is a really good addition because most times you're going to be standing the rig on a tabletop and the extra height is a must. Like a number of the small tripods, the legs can be set at 3 positions. It can be folded completely and used as a hand grip, and the legs can be set to a high and a low angle. The ball head's good as well. It doesn't feel flimsy like some. And one thing I really love is you can loosen and then swivel the vertical slot to where you want it. Now, not all small tripods do this. Now, that's a thumbs up for Movo. But there's one problem with this tripod being included in the iVlog4 kit that I can see. If you load up the camera cage with all the included components, the assembly could become quite top heavy. It stands up fine, but you'd have to be careful that you don't bump it over. The legs have quite a small footprint compared to the height. But you may not be using the gear all at once, and with only the phone grip and 1 or 2 accessories, the tripod is very stable. Now, one thing about the supplied camera cage is that it's nice and light. It's made of aluminium and has a lot of places to attach your accessories. It has 2 cold shoe mounts on the top, 4 1/4 thread holes and 2 3/8 thread holes for attaching your components. And something I don't like about the cold shoe mounts is they don't have stops, so you have to be really careful to ensure your gear is tightened down well, because it's just going to slide right through. A lot of mounts are like this now. To mount your camera, the cage has a 1/4 thread screw, and this has a 1/4 thread socket to attach to your tripod head. The handles on the sides of the frame are covered with a soft material that's adequate for light gear. But if you have to use your cage for a DSLR camera, you may find the handles just a little bit undernourished. Now, some of the other cages on the market have pistol grips. Now, this makes holding the heavy gear more comfortable. For the use that this cage is designed for, it's fine. There are some slots on the lower corners to attach the supplied lanyard, just to reduce the chance of losing your gear over a cliff if you're vlogging in the Grand Canyon. You might have some really crazy stories of losing gear down unreachable places or dropping expensive equipment. Now, if you do, please let us know in the comments section. I'd love to read your stories. Now, out of all the economical phone grips I've seen, this one rates really high. There are some cheaper ones on the market, but let me show you some of the features that make this one different. Similar to others, this Movo grip has an angle support bracket that allows for rotation from landscape to vertical mode without removing your phone from the holder. Now, this bracket is braced well to reduce flexing. Movo has set up the holder so that the phone is mounted forward of the bracket. Now, when it's rotated, your phone doesn't foul on the camera cage. Now, that's a really good idea. The build quality is very sturdy, considering it's not made of metal, and there's a metal reinforced thread on the bottom to mount it on the tripod. Now, there's one on the top also for any additional accessories you may have. The holder can grip phones from less than 65mm to 100mm. That's about 2.5 inches to 3.9 inches, I think. More than enough for many of the Max and Note series phones. Another great addition to the grip is not 1, but 2 cold shoe mounts with safety stops. So you can get away with using the phone grip when needed with 1 or 2 accessories. Finally, the phone grip has 2 level bubbles to assist in setting up your phone. Now, I'm not sure how reliable these are because the one in the sample that I was given is a little bit sluggish to respond, but that's the only negative point I could pick up. You've more than likely worked out by now that one of my favourite topics are wireless microphones. Movo has supplied in this kit their WMX-1, it's a 2.4 gigahertz wireless lavalier microphone system. I've actually been using the WMX-1 for this video. The system comes with the supplied lavalier mic, the transmitter and a receiver that connects to your mobile phone or DSLR camera. Now, without applying any filtering or EQ, what you're listening to is recorded to the Sony camera. And the testing I do outside, I'll connect it to my iPhone 12 Pro. One thing I've learned over the years is that skimping on the quality of wireless microphones can cause more anxiety than it's worth. But to be realistic, many of the high quality systems are quite expensive. For new creators, on a budget, you have to seriously consider cheaper options. And this unit from Movo could be a great alternative. The claimed 60 metre working distance is about half of what some of the expensive units are, but I've never been a real fan of wireless microphone distance tests because they're a little bit subjective. Why would you want to be 200 metres from a camera anyway, unless you're the MC at a showgrounds or something? More importantly is how the system performs when obstacles like your body get between the transmitter and receiver, as well as any electrical or Wi-Fi interference in the area. The price of this wireless mic system on its own is around $119 US. That's less than half the price of a single transmitter version of the Rode Wireless Go with its lavalier Go microphone. Now together they work out to be around $289. That's way more than the price of the whole kit. But is it going to be good enough? Or are you just wasting your money on this wireless mic? Now let me show you how it performs and I'll highlight some of its limitations. While you're listening to the quality of the audio, I'll test out the other two areas of concern, and that is a practical working distance and the OLS, or out of line of sight performance. So I've set the gear up on my iPhone 12 Pro now, and it's in the little phone grip and just a simple stand. So I'm going to set that down and we'll have a check to see how the transmitter and receiver perform in more of a hostile environment. I have a Wi-Fi output outlet just there above us, so that could cause some interference as well. So let me go for a little bit of a walk. I've got the transmitter on my hip here, so try and keep it in line of sight for now. Walking around some of these machines, I'm turning around so the transmitter is on the other side of my body, so my body now is in between. So that'll be interesting to see how that performs. And I'm also going to go in behind a block wall. So there's some pretty heavy metal machinery here. Now I'm going in behind the block wall. The transmitter is behind my body. Now I'm inside this Besser block or concrete block area. So that's definitely going to cause some interference. I have the transmitter facing the direction of the receiver, so that may give us a little bit of help. Anyway, it'd be really interesting to see how this performs. In a vlogging situation, you're not going to have this sort of distance in between you and the camera, but it does open up a lot of situations where you might be doing a demonstration. I hope that's given you a better idea of how it performs, and I'm particularly interested because this microphone is quite economical. What I love about this system is it's so light. The transmitter and receiver loaded up with rechargeable AAA batteries weigh 72 grams. That's 2.5 ounces each. The removable clips can be rotated or replaced with the supplied cold shoe mount. There's no complicated menu systems to get lost in. And if the transmitter and receiver are not talking to each other anymore, you can pair them up again by pressing the side buttons. The transmitter has both a microphone input for the supplied lavalier mic and a dedicated line-in socket for higher output connections. And if you want to know more about connecting one of these transmitters to an audio system or a high output device, then check out the link that I've got in the description. The receiver has an output gain control to match your camera's input, and that's a really handy attachment. We're mostly over the anxiety of not being able to replace batteries in our mobile phones, aren't we? But call me a geriatric, there's nothing better than being able to swap out dead batteries in your wireless gear. Now, there's always going to be a situation when you forget to recharge your internal batteries on your transmitters. So the Movo WMX-1 is powered by rechargeable AAA batteries. In the tests I did with the heavy-duty Eneloop rechargeable batteries, they lasted well and truly more than the 6 hours that's listed in the specifications. The LED XS fill light that's included in the iVlog4 kit has some really nice features compared to some of the others that I've used. It has 5 light intensities that can be switched, and the manufacturer claims are higher than 95 CRI, that's a colour rendering index. Just putting it simply, the light being emitted is balanced across the light spectrum. In my testing, the built-in rechargeable battery lasts more than 5 hours set to the lowest setting, and 2 hours and 10 minutes on the highest setting. Now it's claimed to have a 2-hour recharge time, but my test with a 15-watt charger was around 3 hours and 5 minutes. But as you know, I'm not a real fan of built-in batteries anyway, but Movo has included a menu button to toggle between the viewing light intensity level and the battery life, so that's really handy to keep an eye on the battery life. This feature wasn't explained real well in the instruction manual, but I finally worked it out with a lot of button pushing. The cold shoe bracket on the bottom is plastic, but it has a metal thread for durability. To top off the versatility of this light, like a lot of others, it has 3 cold shoe slots. So in reality, you could get away with a minimum setup of an LED light and a wireless or shotgun attached to the top. Now, one thing that could be improved on the LED XS is a memory setting for light intensity. Now, I understand the benefit of having a physical switch to save battery life, but having to reset the light intensity each time you turn on the LED is a bit of a bother. Apart from that personal observation, it's a really good fill light. Depending on the type of mobile phone you're using, you may have a need for a wide angle lens. The iVlog4 kit includes the SPL-WA clip-on wide angle lens with an 18mm focal length. Now there are some great things about this lens and some issues that I think you need to be made aware of. This metal and glass lens is really well made. The plastic holder that it screws into complements the assembly. As soon as I picked it up, I was impressed by its build quality, and using it on my old iPhone that really needs a wider lens, it worked really well. Now if you have one of the later mobile phones, you may find that the attachment is just too wide. Set up on my iPhone 12 Pro, it really opened up the viewing angle. A little bit much, I thought. The only issue I found with this lens was the method of attachment. You have to be really careful lining it up well with your camera lens. And because of the weight and that it's a clip-on, you've got to be careful not to bump your phone because the lens can slip out of alignment. You may have a way of reducing this risk, so let me know in the comments if you do. Movo has included a small Bluetooth start-stop controller for your mobile and some additional mounting options for your wireless gear, along with a large startup guide. What are my conclusions? Well, if you're starting out with very little gear, purchasing all these accessories together in the iVlog4 kit is very good value. And as I pointed out at the start, you can save over 30% off the individual costs. Now there's some small issues though with the individual components, as I've said, but considering the market that it's designed for, it's great. I've placed some links in the description of this video for you to check out the pricing and more details about the iVlog4. Now if you have any questions about this gear, please type them in the comments section. I read them all and respond as soon as I can. Until next time, I'll catch you later. Oh, and by the way, you might be interested in watching some of these videos I've done earlier too. Stay safe.